One other thing I wanted to say about those times and the institutional learning that went on with this. We were all very naive, idealistic and naive. And one of the evidences of naivete was that we thought that diversity and integration were sort of one and the same thing, that if you just admitted students, everything else would take care of itself. And we very quickly learned that everything else didn't take care of itself. That this was really a white institution in terms of its norms and mores and the expectations and the backgrounds from which the students came and where they got their hair cut and all of those sorts of things. And so we finally realized that, whoops, we really have to, this won't work, and we were helped to realize it by a lot of the minority students who said, we need our own assistant to the president, we need our own center to gather. That grew into ethnic dorms as a place where you can kind of go home and relax. You don't have to be on 24 hours a day, so to speak, trying to prove yourself. So as these things developed, Stanford became more and more genuinely integrated.
Casa Zapata is interesting because, in fact, the first faculty involved was an engineer, a colleague of mine, Doug Wild. And this was a total experiment. It had been suggested trying to organize theme dorms along ethnicity lines. And Doug volunteered for this in 1970, I think was the first year. He did it 2 years, and then Pacheco showed up, and Arturo Pacheco became a resident fellow. But it was a very tumultuous time because nobody had done this. The students so it was 50% ethnic, 50% Anglo, and none of the Anglo students wanted to be in that dorm at the beginning, and so they were basically would apply through the system. It was kind of a lottery, and they were appointed, and so there were major issues the first 2 years that they had to begin to sort out. Arturo Pacheco came in I believe 1972 as the resident fellow.
And he built a home for them. Before the Chicano Cultural Center, Centro Chicano, that was the hub, right? So he not only had the students living there, he was mentoring them, advising them, and being father to them as well.
And they're attracting other students there too. They didn't live there.
Exactly.
Right.
All the cultural events before El Centro Chicano took place, as you recall, in Casa Zapata.
I had been selected as a sponsor in Branner Hall. I experienced not only living in the dormitory system at Stanford, but now was really part of the counseling staff responsible for a group of freshmen myself. One of my real interests was to see that the dormitory system, which was so fundamental to the life of Stanford undergraduates, had a place that could be used as a base for allowing more diverse Asian Americans to feel comfortable at Stanford and live within it. I wrote a long memo that I submitted this document to the housing office to propose an ethnic theme house for Asian Americans. The adjustment curve for students who were not used to the sort of upper middle class norms practiced at Stanford were really, really hard. And it's not just a function of race or ethnicity, although I think that compounds it, but it had a lot to do with class and the comfort level of transitioning from small towns or inner cities or all of that kind of background and coming into the fast track, as it were, of this place. Having a dormitory where one could be oneself, one could ask questions comfortably without risking ridicule or embarrassment, where it was legitimate to want certain kinds of foods or to have certain kinds of values expressed, and have a safe zone for that seemed to me to be very, very important.
Students were a very important force on campus, and there were a lot of things that came into being because of student advocacy and effective student advocacy. The BSU was there. As far as African American students were concerned, there was a whole group of what we called institutions. So now I'm kind of moving into my staff hat. Campus Black institutions, African and Afro-American Studies, the Committee on Black Performing Arts, Ujamaa, the Black Theme House dorm. There was a strong African American alumni group that frequented institutional events, and the Black House, which was sort of the hub. That was the home of the Black Community Services Center, and it also housed the BSU. And so all of these institutions were the sites of either student participation or student advocacy, or students felt that their efforts to make the campus environment more responsive had created these institutions. So there was this fervor about protecting them and making sure that they survived.
I feel like the Black House was like home. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was home.
You could stop in whenever, someone was always there. You catch up with whoever was there. And we didn't have phones and things back there. So that was like the central location for people would just descend there. Like, you know, like you went back to your mom's house. The Black House was home, and you had some free time on Friday afternoon. You went to the Black House and just saw who was hanging out in there. And,
there or Uj.
Yeah, or in Ujamaa. Yeah, that's true.
And then Jan. We talk about Jan a lot. And she was there, and if she was there to help you whenever you needed help. And then also, it was a place where they organized tutoring. So I remember, coming in. Your freshman year is a bit of a shock, and we were both engineering majors to start. The Black House organized tutoring, and so I remember that being really important at that point too, and putting us into little study groups and giving us a tutor or grad student to help us with different subjects.
For those that have grown up surrounded by an extended family and a community of people from their tribe, it's difficult. It's like, okay, now I'm surrounded, and not only are there no people from my tribe surrounding me. There's one over in that dorm and one in that dorm, and I see them here at the center, but day by day, I'm by myself. Or it's not like home. Our students know that there's a place for them here. They're welcome here. They have the combination of the keypad on the front door, and so they can come in any time of the day or night. They're here, they're studying, they're visiting, they have their student organization meetings here. And if learning from grandmother wasn't important to them before, it may become important to them here because the heightened awareness. Say some student says, well, I'm 1/8 Navajo and I grew up in Sunnyvale, and now I'm meeting for the first time Navajo people. I'm feeling related to you, and now I want to know more about my culture. So those are the kind of things we like to see happen here.